creating cultural awareness and understanding. This is Culture Clique. Culture Clique is written and produced by KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University.
The bluffs around the Mississippi River in southeast Minnesota are a beautiful place to live. The bluff country is full of beautiful scenery and wildlife and is even home to some threatened species. And one of those species has been getting a lot of attention lately. That species is the timber rattlesnake. There has been an increased number of reports of timber rattlers in the bluffs around Winona. So many, in fact, that the city of Winona held a public meeting with Minnesota DNR officials to discuss the issue. I spoke with Nongame wildlife specialist Michael Worland from the Minnesota DNR to find out a little bit more about timber rattlers and what to do if you encounter one. I'm Bill Stoneberg with Nongame wildlife specialist Michael Worland on Culture Clique.
So, Mike, there's been what seems to be an uptick in rattlesnake sightings here around Winona, specifically around the Garvin Heights Bluffs area. Why is it that we're having these reports now? Is there something going on that may be, producing more snakes in that area or driving the snakes into that area or something like that?
Well, we don't have any evidence that the snake population has actually increased in the Winona area. A couple of factors that are happening. Number one, we think there's just more awareness by people. Through social media, more people are talking about it. The media, just what we're doing right now today. We're making people more aware of rattlesnakes.
Mm-hmm.
And the second reason is because of the heat we had earlier this summer. I guess just now, 2-3 weeks ago, there was a spurt of calls during that hot period. So the observations were particularly at a high frequency during that period, and we know that rattlesnakes can be driven down from the bluffs where they usually hang out,
mm-hmm.
because the ground's basically getting too hot. They're cold-blooded animals, so they take on the temperature of their habitat, and they can only take so much heat. If it gets too hot, they will go seeking out cooler climates, which means they're moving more and maybe sometimes into people's backyards.
Right. I just want to say that we had a meeting here in Winona, and you guys, the DNR, was there. A lot of great information you guys put out for everybody, and I would encourage anyone to go to your website as well. There's a lot of great info there. But I know you guys had mentioned something about the wet weather driving the lowlander snakes up also. There's a lot of snakes that mimic rattlesnakes. Could that be part of this as well, or?
Absolutely. We know roughly about half of our calls, even there in the Winona area, are not rattlesnakes. They end up being, there's a couple of other species, the fox snake and the bull snake, also sometimes called the gopher snake or maybe a corn snake. They're two different species, but they both can mimic rattlesnakes. Fox snakes in particular hang out quite often around people's homes, and they can look kind of like a rattlesnake. They'll vibrate their tail,
mm-hmm.
Intentionally mimicking the rattle of a fox snake, of a rattlesnake.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a common species that gets called in, and undoubtedly that's part of what's been happening. Yeah, we know the flooding combined with the heat kind of creates a restricted area where the snakes are likely to be found, and sometimes that's around where people are living.
Right.
So yeah, their habitat was cut for two reasons, and that may have been responsible. We think it probably was responsible for the uptick in calls or the uptick in concerns, at least, that we received.
Right. Now, is there an easy way to tell these different snakes apart that mimic rattlesnakes? I mean, I was looking, you guys had a book that you passed out, and I was looking through it, and, I can tell the difference in the picture, but I think if I was actually out in the woods, I don't know if I'd be able to tell the difference. Is there an easy way to tell? Or
it's not that easy. It is a little tough. The fox snakes, which I think is they're the more common ones that are confused with rattlesnakes, they'll have rectangular blotches on their back. The rattlesnake will have more of we call it a chevron. It's almost more of a jagged stripe going across their back.
Okay.
They'll have a triangular shaped head whereas a fox snake, the head is really about the same diameter as the body. The fox snake tends to have kind of a rusty or cinnamon colored head. So if you see that, that's usually a giveaway that it's a fox snake.
Okay.
Again, yeah, the rattlesnake has rattles that can be tricky. You usually got to get pretty close to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And the fox snake will rattle its tail, mimicking a rattlesnake. So
Right.
yeah, I totally concede it's difficult in the real world to tell those species apart. Often we encourage people, if they're able to do so safely, to get a photo of the snake they're concerned about.
Okay.
And send it in to us. And like I said, a lot of the time we find that they're actually looking at a fox snake, which is completely harmless.
Right. Right. So would you say it'd be safe just to, if you're not sure, and just call it in anyway, or what should we do? Like if I ran into one and I wasn't sure what it was, but it was rattling or mimicking a rattle at least, should I just go ahead and call it in anyway, or?
Well, to be clear, that when you come to a snake, even if you're not sure it's a rattlesnake,
Mm-hmm.
the best thing you can do, the default option is to leave it alone.
Okay.
You don't need to do anything.
Okay.
Again, these are protected species, and we want them to live as naturally as possible.
Right.
So, just remember that if you leave it alone, there's a good chance you're not going to see it again.
Okay. Okay.
And regardless of what species it is.
Right. Right. And they are threatened, right? It is a threatened species.
They're listed in Minnesota as a threatened animal. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And this area in Winona, is it kind of unique that we have a population here, or is it kind of widespread throughout Minnesota?
It's only common, or not? It's never common, but it's only found in the number of counties is going to escape me exactly, but we're talking the extreme southeast corner of the state, basically in the bluff country.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So it's got to be in the bluff country. Red wing is probably about getting close to the northern edge of its range, and so no, it's a very isolated area in the state. So yeah, if you're outside of that area, the chances of a rattlesnake are very slim to none.
Okay. Okay. So if you're hiking the bluffs around here in Winona and you happen to hear a rattle, I remember at the meeting there was something about their striking distance being. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it 2/3 the length of their body, or something like that?
Yeah, I would say that's a conservative, a safe assumption.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're at least 5 or 6 feet away, you are safe.
Okay. Okay. So maybe just continue hiking or turn around and just stay away from it.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then if you do happen to get bit, or you have a dog and you're hiking and the dog gets bit, or you think the dog may have gotten bit, what is the first thing you should do for a rattlesnake bite?
Well, the first thing is to stay calm and get to a hospital with antivenom as soon as you can.
Okay.
We know that if you run, for example, you're pushing the toxin around your body. So the safest, shortest route to a vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
to a friend, to a house, and then from there to the hospital. And it is treatable with the antivenom. Only select hospitals in the southeast part of the state have it. But of course, if you go someplace that doesn't have it, they would be able to go to one of the hospitals that do and get it to you, hopefully in pretty short order.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a medical professional of any kind when it comes to this subject, so it's just the very basic advice of getting to the hospital soon and getting antivenom. Also, bear in mind that there is a certain proportion of bites where there's no venom injected.
Oh, okay.
I think it's something fairly significant, like up to a quarter.
Oh.
So there's always a chance you didn't get the venom. So just bear that in mind if you are bit. Also remember that other snakes do strike and might even give you a bite that's not severe or very, painful. It won't damage tissue.
Okay.
But just because something strikes at you, remember, bull snakes can strike, fox snakes can strike, And largely what they're doing is trying to convince you that they're a vicious predator and that you should leave them
Just
alone.
stay away. Okay.
But it's all an act, really.
Right.
So, always bear that in mind. I've never talked to anybody directly that's been bitten by a rattlesnake, but my understanding is that there's not a lot of doubt when it happens. It can be a painful bite.
Okay.
You know it when it happens, and then get to the hospital.
Okay. So basically, try to stay as calm as you can and get a medical attention as soon as possible. Then, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and always bear in mind that it's rare. We haven't had a bite in the Winona area that I'm aware of in the last 20 years at least.
Oh, well, that's good news.
And we've had, I think, as my colleague put it, there's been one bite that we are aware of in the past several years in Minnesota that was purely an accidental bite that wasn't brought on by somebody harassing a snake.
Oh, okay.
So one bite where I think somebody was stepping into their barn and they accidentally shut the door on the snake, and then the snake bit. But so it's very rare. It's also important to reinforce that these are very docile, laid-back animals generally, and they don't want anything to do with you. So
okay. So if you just leave them alone, they'll probably leave you alone then, right?
That's right.
Okay. Well, that's good advice. That's good to know. And then, so are they mainly found just in the bluff areas here, or can they be found in, outside of that as you go up, across the prairie or anything like that? Will they be found in that area? Or?
No.
Okay.
In Minnesota, it's going to be basically in the bluff area. The kind of the periphery of the bluff area, like here in Rochester. I would say there's always a remote possibility, but I think it's very unlikely.
Right. Okay. And then are they active like all day long in the summer, or do they become kind of slower, or, when is the time that you may want to look out for them if you're out hiking in the woods?
Well, I would say any time. As the sun comes out and as it gets hotter, they are more likely to be in the shade.
Okay.
But otherwise, as far as time of day, there's always a possibility of running into them. A fairly remote possibility. And also, as far as time of year, they're overwintering, starting in early to mid-October and going through going through March, if not well into April. During that whole time frame, they're overwintering, and you're not going to see them. So.
Oh, okay. So we don't have that far to go, really.
Right, not far.
Is there there's a lot of people around here that like to hike the bluffs. I mean, is there like protective clothing you can wear and things like that to prevent, take extra measures, or?
Unless you're really planning on handling snakes, which hopefully none of your listeners are.
Right.
I would say the only thing you need to really think about is wearing long pants and leather boots that go up. There are snake chaps and snake boots and things like that. I don't think there's necessarily a good reason to go that far, if you're hiking in the bluffs.
Okay.
More important is to be aware of the possibility of timber rattlers.
Okay.
To always be thinking, if you're stepping especially off the path and you're stepping over a log, you're going through dense brush, you need to be thinking about rattlesnakes and just be aware. Listening for that rattle, looking on the ground. That is the most important thing with these guys.
Right. And if they rattle or even if they strike, they're probably trying to warn you, right?
Yeah, the rattling certainly, that is totally a warning. If they strike, then you are certainly too close, and
right.
It's probably more than just a warning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if someone, does see a timber rattler in their neighborhood, maybe they see it more than once, and they want to report it, where should they go to report it? Is there a place online or a phone number they can call? How do they go about doing that?
In the Winona area, and I would say really throughout the timber rattlesnakes range in Minnesota, if you see a rattlesnake, if it's in your backyard, if you're concerned about safety, you can call your local dispatch, your county dispatch.
Okay.
And they should have a list of people that they can contact that can come help get that snake removed, possibly.
Okay. And that would just be your local non-emergency police number, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Non-emergency police number, yes.
Okay. Great. And then make sure to take a picture of it as well, right?
if at all possible, to do so safely, take a photo. Before I ever remove a snake, I will probably want to see a photo. Like I said, because half the time they are not rattlesnakes. But
Okay.
if at all possible, and if it can be done so safely, a large trash can, like a 50-gallon trash can, can be used to put over the snake so that it doesn't escape. Because by the time the responder gets there, it may very well be gone. Also, the landowner can take a garden hose with a nozzle. A nozzle that has enough pressure to spray, but not like the kind of pressure we'd use to wash a car.
Right.
And they can use that kind of nozzle to spray the snake, and you spray it in a way that pushes it away from you, and that kind of experience can totally convince a snake that it doesn't want to be there anymore.
Oh, okay. And then it might not come back then, huh?
And then it might not come back, yes.
Oh, great. That is good advice. So does the DNR have resources like a website, or I know you guys had books that you passed out where people can learn more about timber rattlesnakes and maybe be able to identify different types of snakes? Or
Sure. Yeah, that booklet you're referring to is online, I think, as a PDF document.
Okay.
I think is it called The Snakes and Lizards of Minnesota?
I think so.
Anyway, if you search for DNR Snakes and Lizards booklet, it would surely pop up then.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's, if you searched for Minnesota timber rattlesnake, we have a page designated to talking about it. And yeah, lots of resources online about Minnesota snakes for sure.
Okay, sounds good. So really, I think people should just be careful out there, it sounds like, and keep your eyes open, your ears open, and don't approach them, right? If you see them, just try to get away.
Yep.
I've been here with Michael Worland, and he's the non-game wildlife specialist with the DNR here in Minnesota. He's here talking with us about rattlesnakes today, just so people are aware of how to handle a situation if you do run into a rattlesnake. So thank you so much for joining us today, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your interest.
Thanks again to Minnesota DNR non-game wildlife specialist Michael Worland for joining us today on Culture Clique. For more information about timber rattlers and what to do if you encounter one or even get bit by one, go to mndnr.gov and search timber rattlesnake. There is a lot of good information on the DNR's website that can help you out. To keep up on all things Winona and the surrounding area, tune in to Culture Clique Thursdays at 12:30 right here on 89.5 KQAL. I'm Bill Stoneberg, and we've just heard from Minnesota DNR non-game wildlife specialist Michael Worland on Culture Clique.
Creating cultural awareness and understanding. You've been listening to Culture Clique. Support for Culture Clique is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Culture Clique is produced by KQAL-FM on the campus of Winona State University. For more information, look us up on the web at kqal.org. And thanks for listening to Culture Clique.
Are you interested in all things Winona and the surrounding area? Find podcasts of Culture Clique and all your favorite KQAL shows by going to kqal.org and looking for program archives under the Media tab. Culture Clique is made possible by a grant from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.